I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the assassination of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The defendant is a 26-year-old Ivy Leaguer who some are calling a hero. Here's the story. A shocking targeted murder in the streets of New York City. UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was in New York for a big investor meeting. The meeting was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. at the Hilton Hotel. Thompson was staying across the street at a different hotel. At around 6:45, he left his room and then crossed the street. That's when the suspect approached him from behind, shooting him 3 times and killing him. After a 6-day manhunt, this man, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And now prosecutors are putting all their evidence together, from surveillance images of the alleged killer to ballistics gathered at the scene and the so-called ghost gun Mangione was carrying when he was arrested, to fingerprints and the various writings discovered by police. Meanwhile, the reaction to this assassination has also taken an unexpected turn, as many people on social media are putting their support behind Mangione and villainizing the victim, UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was shot and killed in cold blood, leaving behind his wife and children. It's an incredibly unexpected turn that this took. And you go on social media, I mean, it's undeniable what is happening, where there is a large faction of people who are supporting, celebrating Luigi Mangione, the defendant, the accused murderer in this case. This is rare territory that we're in for such a public case when you look at it, because we've seen the video of a cold-blooded murder. Now, for those of you maybe who just watch television, nothing wrong with that by any means, who maybe don't spend time on social media, we did today, and we took a look at some of the things that people are saying. This is a small sample of a very large sample that exists. Take a look.
People who keep wondering why we regard Luigi Mangione as a hero, we don't. We see him as the symbol he is in a time that he's needed. If you don't believe me, check this out.
Luigi single-handedly brought us together and united us in the U.S. And I hope he understands that.
It's funny how there's people out there that are happy that the guy who shot the healthcare CEO got arrested today, when that CEO guy probably killed way more people than the guy who shot him. I mean, this guy basically became the modern-day Martin Luther King. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's statues of him in the near future or something.
What do you think about Luigi Mangione?
Up in the air about it.
Why is that?
Because he killed someone, but I can understand part of his...
What do you think about Luigi Mangione, the CEO assassin?
I think he's cool.
What would you rate him 1 through 10?
He's hot, so like 8, sure. Solid 8.
8?
Yeah. I'm taken, so I'm not gonna answer. Oh, no, but the 10.
The dude who killed the UnitedHealthcare CEO, and scrolling on TikTok right now and seeing every single girl on the entire planet simping over him. This guy has literally won over every single girl on the internet.
I think attractiveness has a lot to do with why people are fans of him. It has to do with what he stands for as well.
Luigi Mangione. I am just going crazy. And I'm not going crazy like for his looks, okay? This whole corporate capitalist takedown is just...
Luigi Mangione doesn't even know that he is a national phenomenon right now. Like, he doesn't even know how loved he is.
And right now, it feels like we're all united. At this point, it's the people against the CEOs.
Even though the guy got caught, which is very unfortunate, at least he left a very powerful message, and he highlighted how terrible the healthcare system is in America. I think he'll go down as a hero in history.
So thank you, Luigi, for your service, because America is coming back together.
It's just a sample. There's a whole lot more if you want to scroll tonight. I could understand if you wouldn't want to, but that is happening. That is real. That's on TikTok. That's on X. That is on Instagram. That's what people are saying, which brings us to our first question of our investigation. Why? Why are people calling Mangione a hero? Now, I understand he's presumed innocent, but the people who are calling him a hero are not presuming him innocent of that act. They believe he actually committed the act. They're not saying he's innocent and he's like being wrongfully prosecuted and is a hero in that sense. They believe he's a hero because of what he's accused of doing and what they believe he actually did. Let's get some help. I need help. Joining me, former DEA special agent and security expert David Katz, and psychotherapist and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. Okay, I'll begin with you, Dr. Janie Lacey. I don't know if we have a breakdown. We haven't done that analysis of it, of the ages, any sort of the demographic breakdown of who this audience is. But from that sample, they seem to skew young to a certain extent. From your perspective, what is going on here in society? What is going on here in social media, where we have someone committing one of the highest profile, accused of committing one of the most high profile murders? It's on video, and they believe he did it, and they believe he's a hero. Why?
Well, Vinnie, first, I must say, celebrating violence can be problematic and potentially dangerous to society, regardless of the underlying grievances. But when I watch these samples that you had just shared with us, I think about the psychology of like the vigilante justice, right? It could be similar to the Robin Hood narrative. They're perceived as him fighting the system, and it can resonate with a lot of people's feelings of powerlessness and almost using that misplaced projection pretty much of justice seeking of what's happened in this case. But then we also think about things that were happening way before what has happened with the UnitedHealthcare CEO, and that's just the healthcare system's frustration, right? So when we think about these deep-seated anger issues over whether it's healthcare cost or resentment towards insurance companies or people's personal experiences. Maybe it's theirs, maybe it's a parent, or maybe there's someone that they watched in their family, and then they can view this healthcare executives as these symbols, as a systematic problem. So when they're looking at him and making him this hero, it's almost like this Robin Hood. He's coming and saving the day, and he's dealing with this crisis of trust that a lot of people are having declining faith in these institutes and their perception that peaceful change is impossible, so they can view his direct action as the only recourse. And I think that's what we're hearing, some of that. So we're looking at just some of these major factors that a lot of these younger people in general, right, are kind of taking hold to, and that's that healthcare remains a major source of, whether it's bankruptcy or maybe watching a family member not do so well and not get the help that they need. So it's just a growing problem of anger at the healthcare system, and then we're seeing them kind of hold on to this cause and him being the representation of that.
David Katz, sometimes in movies that go back and take a look at, drug kingpins, they glamorize it a little bit, the scar faces and things like that. We've seen that adoration, but those are movies and that's fake. This is like real life, a real murder that was witnessed by everyone who is praising the person they believe is responsible. Yet you look at his background, right? You're raging against the CEOs and the machine here. Yet his family's incredible wealth was built through a chain of healthcare or assisted living facilities, nursing homes that are dependent upon insurance companies and all of that, country clubs. He's part of the 1% of the 1%, yet they still see him as a hero. What do you think's going on here, David Katz?
Yeah, I'm going to go with undisciplined, entitled snowflakes who think that they are justified as long as they feel passionately about a topic. They can do anything they want. Look at all the recent in the last 5 years. Take a look at all the violent demonstrations we've had with absolutely zero consequences to people who are torching police cars, who are throwing rocks, bottles, beating people. This is no different. This is the exact same person. This guy lives a life of privilege that most of us can only dream about. And to suggest that, well, he's some sort of Robin Hood, and and I've heard other suggestions that, well, he might have had an unfortunate encounter with the healthcare industry. That is just absolutely ludicrous. That's not what this is about at all.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think we heard today, Dr. Jane Lacey, he wasn't a client of UnitedHealthcare. It's not like he had a bad experience. Do you think this public perception will continue? Do you think it will grow? Because obviously folks like us will be covering this story, every development, eventually to a trial. Will he end up being some sort of a historical martyr, or do you think the masses on TikTok and on Reels will move on?
Well, you said it, Vinny, right? When we look at the social media impact, right, this rapid spread of this pretty much an oversimplified narrative that can happen in this echo chamber that can be reinforced. And then we see not only in this case, but in other cases, like this dehumanization of these corporate figures. So when we're looking at social media impact, I think it reinforces that emotional response rather than these rational responses. So it probably will last a little bit longer. We'll probably continue seeing these narratives and these conversations as more details of the case unfolds. So at some point, I think because it's the latest cause, especially certain groups of people can hold on to and to kind of use it as their point of conversation or their point of their own cause, of whether it's powerlessness or perhaps maybe it's just holding on to something that they can have to feed their own cause when it comes to the social media impact. So I think we're probably going to be seeing and hearing these conversations from different groups, especially the use of social media, that's going to be opening up other conversations, that's going to be missing the important thing that we just heard. And there is someone that has been murdered and their family has been impacted by this. So there's a larger issue that's being missed here.
Let me ask you one last question before we run out of time, Dr. Jane Lacey. We have about 15 seconds here. Do you think the masses could turn on him if he's in the system of justice and at some point shows remorse and apologizes, perhaps to get less of a sentence?
I think when his narrative that we will hear at some point, that will dictate if people are going to continue to rally behind what they think is going on here or potentially turn on him and not make him such a big deal anymore.
All right, Dr. Janie Lacey, thanks so much. David Katz staying with us because coming up next, are other CEOs in actual danger?
I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
A carefree couple living life in their converted van.
But did his dark side lead to first-degree murder?
The Van Life and Death Murder Trial, weekday mornings on Court TV.
People wanted answers, and people started locking their doors.
You know what it means. You know what you did, right?
Please hear me out. Please.
I said, OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty.
Good morning, everyone. In Midtown Manhattan early this morning, 50-year-old Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, was shot and killed in what appears at this early stage of our investigation to be a brazen, targeted attack. This does not appear to be a random act of violence. The suspect approached from behind and fired several rounds, striking the victim at least once in the back and at least once in the right calf. Many people passed the suspect, but he appeared to wait for his intended target. I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
Yeah, it was an assassination is what it was, right? Murder, high-profile person in a very powerful position to make some sort of a statement, perhaps a political statement in all this. Now, the reaction is the other thing we're talking about right now, the reaction of the public to all of this. Since the shooting, wanted posters with the faces of other healthcare CEOs have been popping up in New York City. One of them even had the victim, Brian Thompson's face on it, but crossed out. Video of the posters was uploaded to TikTok by Barbecue Lady.
Do you see this? Deny, defend, oppose at the bottom of it?
This is actually happening, folks. It's actually happening. People putting up wanted posters of CEOs going after them. They need to be taken out, like Brian Thompson was taken out. So that brings us to our next question in our investigation, which is, are other CEOs in actual danger, right? Are these people just venting? Are these people just making noise? Are these keyboard muscles that we're hearing? Or are other CEOs in actual danger? Still with us, security expert David Katz. What do you think? Is there an actual growing danger that didn't exist before this?
Oh, 100%. There's absolutely no doubt. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is just an indication of the way our educational system has been almost priming these people with this ultra activist progressive mindset, where that no matter what you feel strongly about an issue and you think it's politically expedient, do whatever you need to do, including apparently targeted assassination. So this is absolutely going to continue. I've already had part of our practice is executive protection, and we also do a lot of consulting and training for executives on exactly this personal security issue. And we're already seeing people who are nervous about it, and they should be. Why? Because you have a person like this who is now celebrated, gaining tremendous notoriety, and there are people out there who want to say, me too.
I was watching a bond court hearing. Young woman in Florida brought into court, charged criminally for making threats to a Blue Cross Blue Shield adjuster because of being denied some claim that she was making. I mean, she was broken up, but she was young and had made those threats. Let me ask you about Luigi Mangione. He still had the alleged murder weapon on him at the time he was arrested. Do you think he was going to go after other targets? Do you think that was a real possibility here?
It's certainly possible, but anything, just speculative, unless they have documentation and they see something in his laptop or his writings that indicate that. By the way, I think we talked about this last time. Valedictorian, super smart guy. So, hey, Luigi, you manufacture an untraceable weapon and you keep it on your person at the time of your arrest. Not so smart.
Now, Como News, KOMO, found a disturbing message on the side of the highway in Seattle, and they posted the video to their YouTube page. Take a look at this.
Number of questions this morning about a really disturbing message. It was found posted on one of those portable electronic road messaging signs right off of Highway 99 near Lake Union in Seattle overnight. So look at the message here that our photographer found near Dexter Avenue in the northbound lanes of the highway there. It reads, "One less CEO, many more to go." We don't know who's responsible for this message.
So what is, from your perspective, what is the profile of the person who becomes potentially dangerous? What type of person do you think could end up being an actual threat to another CEO or another company or another healthcare or health insurance worker or adjuster?
I would look for a profile. If years ago, there might be a person who had some sort of psychological instability, and maybe there's some instance where a particular person or industry crossed paths in a negative way in prior years. Today, you just have to be young and stupid and indoctrinated with all this nonsense. No surprise that sign was up in Seattle, Washington. I mean, goodness gracious. You could do, if you're protesting, it doesn't matter what you do. If you feel that you're somehow acting for the greater good, burn whatever you want, beat whomever you want, and there is no consequence. Why? Because the people in authority think the same way you do, and that's the unfortunate fact. So I would say I don't think there is a particular profile that you could look at psychologically or otherwise. Young, stupid, entitled snowflakes who actually been brainwashed by this progressive nonsense and think they can do what they like. But I think what's going to happen is this guy is going to get slammed. It's an open and shut case. There's not going to be a mental health defense. He's going to be put away for a very, very long time. And by the way, being pretty, that's not so good when you're in jail. I think it's going to be very, very popular on D Block.
Yeah. How will this manifest itself now in terms of other CEOs, other corporate officers? Is it going to be a complete change in the way they operate, much like after 9/11 for what happened to folks who were going to fly?
Yeah, I tell you what we recommend to our clients. Not every industry is going to be one of those flashpoint industries. Certainly healthcare is clearly one that you could understand, but it could be you could be in the oil industry, and then environmentalists target you, or a car executive, and the same with the same type of person, same sort of political alignment targeting those individuals. So it really depends on the industry. However,
we're out of time.
Responsible for.
We're out of time, Dave. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Coming up next, what can we learn from Mangione's writings? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. It's a case where some questions have been answered, but there's some big ones that still have not. Here's the story. The arrest of 26-year-old Luigi Mangione for the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson answered one question, but has raised a whole bunch more. Mangione is accused of traveling by bus to New York City to assassinate Thompson, then escaping the city by foot, by bike, by cab, and by bus. He ended up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was arrested eating hash browns at McDonald's. And when he was taken into custody, police seized many items he had in his possession. Thousands of dollars of cash, a ghost gun and silencer, a fake New Jersey ID, and a series of writings. All of this leading everyone to wonder how and why a young, smart, good-looking, and extremely wealthy Ivy Leaguer ended up locked up facing a potential of life behind bars. You know, there were a lot of times in stories, and you may have noticed it in my coverage of the Idaho student killer suspect. I don't use his name. I don't say his name. This case a little bit different because trying to uncover who and why, because of how unusual all of this is and the way it's manifesting itself in society and the way people have seemingly some people have started to support this accused killer. So this one's a little different than a serial killer, a psychotic killer. There's something else going on here. So that's why I am acknowledging his name. Another part of this is when he was arrested. He had this 3-page document, I think it's like 262 words, of a so-called manifesto, which could answer a lot of questions. Now, journalist Ken Klippenstein posted what he claimed to be the full transcript of Mangione's manifesto to his website. According to Newsweek, they were able to verify the copy is a legitimate transcription done by law enforcement authorities. Court TV has not been able to independently confirm its authenticity. We took the manifesto obtained by Klippenstein and had one of our producers voice it over. Let's take a listen.
To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is, these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed. For example, Rosenthal, Moore, decades ago. The problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
And it was all handwritten, apparently. Handwritten and with him at the time he was arrested. So that brings us to our next question in our investigation. What can we learn from Mangione's writings? And of course, it begins with the manifesto itself, but we can't forget that he also allegedly wrote on those casings the words deny, depose, defend. Joining me to help answer all of this, criminologist, investigative profiler, Dr. Casey Jordan, and retired NYPD officer Mike Gould. Great to see you both. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Casey Jordan, very elusive, trying to book you for weeks and weeks and weeks, but we've got you tonight, so thank you so much. What are your thoughts about this so-called 262-word, 3-page manifesto? What are we learning about Mangione here?
Basically, Vinny, it confirms what I think most of us thought all along, which is that although he did not commit a mass murder, his psychology is very much that of a typology of mass murder called the mission-oriented mass killer. And that means that they're going to kill somebody, or he only killed one person. If you recall, he also had some writings, I think, in the Spiral that said he had other murder methods that he had considered, including bombs, but he didn't want to hurt innocent people. So he chose to just go with a gun in getting his one target. But he never met this guy. He never had insurance with UnitedHealthcare. The killing of this CEO was symbolic because he holds a grudge against big healthcare companies. Now, how he got there, we're not really clear. We know he alleges that he had a back surgery, but that's never been confirmed. He never complained about having any insurance denied. And even if he had, Vinny, of course, he's incredibly affluent, comes from a life of privilege and money. So he would never have to worry about, losing his home due to lack of coverage or healthcare costs. So where he got this grudge against the healthcare industry, the insurance industry, healthcare insurance, remains to be seen. But it could be something as simple as he entering a mental health crisis, because everyone agrees that just 6 months ago, he fell off the face of the earth. He quit communicating with his family. His social media became a little bit cryptic and, about new and different topics. He hasn't held a job for more than a year, and he kept blaming it on a back injury. And according to his friend in Hawaii, he wasn't able to enjoy intimate relations, because his back injury kept him, I guess, from having the sex that he wanted. All of these things kind of stack up. And if you combine that with an onset of mental illness, Vinny, and we are not diagnosing him, but these delusions of grandiosity, that he's a caped crusader out to save the public, this could very easily be the onset of schizophrenia or a schizotypal personality, because it often happens in the 20s with young men. We're going to find out more, but What the writings indicate is that he was decompensating and believed that he was the savior of the people.
Now, let's take a look at this because Dr. Casey Jordan mentioned this, Mike, the so-called to-do list. He had a notebook which police allegedly found on Mangione contained a to-do list for the killing and allegedly discussed different murder methods. And it's interesting the way he writes this. What do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence. When you read that and when you hear this so-called manifesto, Mike Gould, you're investigating this case. What's it telling you?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Dr. Jordan. If it wasn't this, it would be some other thing that he would get on a pedestal and be the savior of the world. He wants the notoriety, certainly wants notoriety. He planned it to have notoriety. He wrote it. He's doing everything to say, look at me, I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to fix this for the healthcare people that are suffering. Even though I'm not involved with it whatsoever, I'm going to be the hero here. And it worked. To some degree for him, by virtue of, but you know, I keep this simple, Vinny. You know, this is a homicide that took place. It's a single person. Yeah, it's not a terrorist. It's not a multiple shooting, and he's apprehended. So yeah, there might be copycats. That's the biggest threat. He's certainly not a threat to anyone anymore. He's not going to be. But it has the earmarks of the Son of Sam, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. They were smart, intelligent people. They're never going to get caught. And this is how they're going to do things.
You know what, Dr. Casey Jordan, Mike just mentioned the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. That was something on his readables that he was liking and quoting, liking the quotes from the Unabomber. That's kind of out there as well.
Yeah, but we see that with the mission-oriented killers. Remember, they're on a mission to, take out some unwanted parasite of the community. And we have a lot of examples of that. I mean, Ted Kaczynski's manifesto is very famous because it wasn't until it was published in the New York Times and we had FBI people doing text analysis of it, and his own brother and sister-in-law recognized the writing as belonging to Ted. We never would have caught him if it weren't for the manifesto. Now, just because those writings were in the backpack doesn't mean he thought he was going to get caught. It means he was ready to throw the backpack if he had to and leave those writings behind as a message. We have Christopher Dorner wrote a manifesto when he went on a spree killing of law enforcement. He was a disgruntled employee.
So let me jump in here for 1 second, Dr. Casey. Do you think he still had the alleged murder weapon with him? Do you think he was a threat to strike again if he wasn't captured at the McDonald's?
Yeah, I mean, what a stupid mistake for somebody so intelligent. He drops his phone, he drops a water bottle with his DNA and his fingerprints, and then he still has the gun on him when they apprehend him. He really did not think he was going to get apprehended, not in that McDonald's, not that day. But the fact that he had the gun still with him means he loved the power that it gave him. And it certainly opens the door for the idea that he was plotting a next move. I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that unless he fills us in. But I mean, at the same time, you don't keep the murder weapon, and he had a million opportunities to ditch it and didn't do it. So the idea that it gave him a sense of power is surely, it was feeding his ego and his sense of power and strength. He doesn't look very good in that McDonald's, by the way. He looks like he's on the downside of a manic episode, and he's kind of sliding into a depression. If he had his wits about him, he would have dumped that gun.
And I think it was that the way he appeared and the way he was acting that made him look suspicious to the folks at McDonald's and the man across the street at the hotel that he was trying to check into. All right, good news. Dr. Casey Jordan, Mike Gould staying with us. Still to come, did Mangione want to get caught?
That is completely out of touch and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people.
People wanted answers, and people started locking their doors.
You know what it means. You know what you did, right?
Please hear me out. Please.
I said, OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
That's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
That moment right there, he just seems so unhinged. Like this is the first time where he's in custody, but there are the cameras, there is the media, there is the rest of the world that's reporting on all this, and that's his reaction in that moment. Some almost unintelligible message that he is sending out to the world. I want you to take a listen to the rookie police officer who actually made the arrest. He's 6 months on the force. Take a listen.
So whenever we got on scene there, we were able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was very cooperative with us. Didn't really give us too many issues. Once we found out his identity, we took it from there.
So very cooperative at the moment that the police are engaging him and arresting him. But according to the criminal complaint, a little bit different, just a little nuance here. According to the criminal complaint, based on their accounts of the arrest, when one of the officers asked if he'd been to New York recently, the questioning, so have you been to New York recently? They describe him as becoming quiet and beginning to shake. That's the moment, right? You're being questioned, but then you're being asked, have you been to New York? And that's when he got quiet, his demeanor changed, and he started to shake. That brings us to our next question in our investigation, which is, did Mangione want to get caught? You know, there's a lot of people saying, yes, he wanted to get caught based upon, you know, him being so smart, but all these other things, and sitting in the McDonald's and pulling down your mask at a different moment. But let's get the real answer. Still with us, profiler Dr. Casey Jordan and retired NYPD officer Mike Gould. Mike, let me begin with you. What does that reaction tell you as he's being questioned by police for the first time in Altoona, Pennsylvania? Have you been to New York? Then he gets quiet, starts shaking. Does that strike you as someone who wanted to get caught?
No, I don't think he wanted, or at least consciously wanted to get caught, because I don't think he was done. And frankly, he was still acting rationally. He was evading the police. If you remember correctly, NYPD had him going on a bus to Atlanta, and they sent detectives to Atlanta. He shows up in Altoona. So he had 5 days. If he was going to unwind and become a serial killer and start massacring people, he had plenty of opportunity. But the fact that he had the gun, I think this is real, to me personally, it's a big indicator. No criminal, he is smart, no criminal, the first thing they do is get rid of the evidence. A gun that matches the gun that was used. He's watching all this just as we are. So he's listening. He knows what's happening. At the moment he got caught, his mind, in his narcissistic mind, thought he was probably going to maybe talk himself out of that. I don't know. Say he has a twin brother that lives in New York. I don't know what he was going to say. But once they started to pin him down, so to speak, he started to get nervous. And that was his reaction that I saw coming out of the van at the corrections department. He was busted. His intentions, this wasn't big enough for him. One murder was not big enough. His intentions, his plans, I believe, was to do much more killing. So this was his frustration that he can't believe it. The reality set in. I'm not killing anymore. I'm done. So that's my take. I think the gun is significant. I've never arrested a criminal for robbery or anything else that kept a weapon on them, on their person. So I just don't think that that was accidental. I think he had intentions. The manifesto, so to speak, it described a bigger plan in my mind, or a bigger plot, a bigger ideation in my mind than just this one killing.
Dr. Casey Jordan, what are your thoughts? Because again, the initial reaction by a lot of people was, oh, he wanted to get caught. That's why he's hanging out at McDonald's. That's why he pulled down the mask. What are your thoughts? Because I agree with Mike. I think there was more to this.
Oh, I agree with Mike, too. I think that he was incredibly well planned to a point, but he really had not thought out the long game. If he had, he would have been on a plane, and out of there with his passport before we knew who he was. And there he is in Altoona, in a McDonald's, just like the Parkland shooter. I mean, it's amateurish. So I really do think that whatever happened to him with his mental health in the last 6 months, so that nobody really recognized his behavior. He is a shell of the man that you're going to see all of that social media, the valedictorian, the guy with the masters, and the computer scientist and the engineer and the Hawaiian surfer. I mean, he is a shell of that man. He has been taken over by these delusions of grandeur that he is going to be the savior of the healthcare industry, by symbolically shooting a CEO. But he didn't think too far beyond that. I think that because he didn't have a long plan, he absolutely was at danger for trying to do this again to somebody else. But did he want to get caught? They never want to get caught. It's the subconscious in them that kind of screws up when they get tired and they don't know what to do next. Then they start making mistakes, start screwing up, and that's when they get caught. But there's no conscious belief that they will get caught at the time.
And how much planning do you think went into this, Dr. Casey Jordan? We have about a minute left here. Like, how much time, when do you think the idea came? Listen, this is what I'm going to do, and then the actual murder.
He said, I think in his writings, that it took weeks or months to actually do this. And I think, we will find out what exactly happened about 6 months ago that kind of led him to withdraw from society, stop communicating. And at that time, if he did enter into, an episode's, the onset of schizophrenia or whatever could be wrong with him right now, and the bottom line is that he started rabbit holing, looking for answers in all the wrong places, reading books like Deny, Delay, Depose that make him think, grab onto a particular topic, which he can kind of sink his teeth into. And I think the planning probably started just a month or two ago. And remember, when he got off of that bus, he went straight to the Hilton and started casing the joint. He was in New York 10 days before the shooting. He was methodical, but when it was all over, what next? He didn't really have a plan after that. So it's not surprising to me that he got caught.
Dr. Casey Jordan, great to catch up with you. Mike Gould, always great to have you on the show. Thank you both so much. Now, the fact that people are calling an accused murderer a hero, to me, is disappointing. In our country, we have civilized ways to address our grievances and effectuate change. Our laws, our lawmakers, and our system of justice. Violence, folks, violence is not the solution. It's the end for whoever commits that violence. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for the answers as our investigation continues.